Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see everyone this morning. And you know, it seems as I was studying this week, it just seemed like, Christmas is barely in the rearview mirror, and now we're looking at Easter. I don't know if you know this or realize this, but there's only 5 Sundays before Easter. We're creeping up on Easter very, very, very quickly. And I want to say and you're going to hear me say this over the next few weeks, Easter is the greatest home court advantage we have as a church. So it's the most advantageous time for us to be able to invite people to come to church, and they won't feel threatened with that. So, I'd like everybody to be thinking about that. Think of an opportunity where if you know someone who's unchurched, this is a great time to be inviting them. And beginning in the next couple of weeks here, we're going to be starting in a series leading up to Easter and all the events leading up to Easter. So it'd be a great time to be inviting people to church. Now, if you've been with us for the last few weeks, we've been in a series called Guardrails. And if you've missed out on the series, you can actually catch up. You can go to our website. It's at mycclife.com. We put all of our sermons on our website, so you can catch up there. Or you can check us out on Canton Christian Church on our Facebook page. We do Facebook Live, so those sermons are still on Facebook. So if you want to catch up on some of them, that's the place to go look at the sermons, catch up. Now, as many of you know, I had some surgery earlier this week, so I'm not up for talking very long. So I've gotten somebody to kind of come in and fill in for me, but this was a good opportunity for me. First off, because this is the morning where everybody's tired. So, I don't have to look at people yawn, so Eli, sorry about that. I'm throwing you to the wolves this morning. But last week, if you were with us, you know that my wife and I, we talked about some guardrails that we placed in our life being a blended family and being a married couple. Well, this week, Eli Boyles is going to share with us some of the guardrails he's placed in his life about being a single person and what those look like in living in this culture today. So if you would this morning, make Eli welcome as he comes up and presents some words.
You might be tall enough.
It is just. Wait, trying to tell me that.
Nothing?
Alright. Your eyes are that bad, right?
Alrighty, so nice to meet you guys again. I'm Eli Boyles. I've spoken a couple times here, so if you haven't met me, my name's Eli, obviously. So I'm here for Tony today. And like he said, we're going to be continuing a series called Guardrails, and I'm specifically going to be talking a little bit about how it's like to be a young white male in today's world, and kind of what guardrails that I use to help throughout my life, and how I can kind of show you guys a little bit what that's like. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the first definition. So this series, kind of what the definition that we're going off of is a guardrail as being a personal standard of behavior that becomes a matter of conscience. Now, what's that mean? Well, basically what that means is you're setting something, you're setting a pattern, something that you continuously do. You're kind of training yourself to have this conscious response. So it's something that you're preparing yourself for that you don't really have to think about. In today's world, we live in a pretty confusing world where things kind of appear very close to the same, but they're not exactly the same thing. They might be a little bit different. They might even be wrong, but they appear right. Some might say it as, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is too good. Well, that's born from a thing where you look at 2 separate words that are kind of similar, but have 2 very different meanings. That would be knowledge and wisdom. Tony gave me a really good example for knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put that in a fruit salad. I'm supposed to shout out to my mom for that. So next slide. God knows He has knowledge and He has wisdom. Something we get only parts of. We'll get a little bit of here, a little bit there. Our main goal in our life is to figure out, what is something that we thought of and what's something that He gave to us. So this in Jeremiah 29:11, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you," that's the Lord saying that, "plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and to give you a hope." So He, like I said, He already has all the knowledge, He has all the wisdom. It's our job to fulfill that plan. So where am I going with this? Well, he gives you a plan, he gives you a drawn out, mapped out life. What the guardrails are for, those are the things that keep us on track. I mean, think about it in a real life scenario. A guardrail is a system that's designed to keep vehicles from straying into dangerous or off-limit areas. So that guardrail is there so you don't go into the construction or go off the bridge, go off the cliff. Like I said in our discussion, remember, our guardrails are personal standards of behavior that are becoming a matter of conscience. So they act as the same thing. Personal standards, we'll break that down a little bit more. Personal standards are something that you set for yourself. Like, somebody might not do the same thing. So, if you're raising kids, your kids might come home from school and say, well, so-and-so's parents let so-and-so do this. Well, that's their personal standard. A personal standard is something that you're going to say, you're going to follow through no matter what. It's what you see from yourself. It's what you want other people to see from you. Personal standards are not something that's easy. It takes willpower. It takes a lot of willpower. You have to know that you want to do that. Somebody's not going to say, when you're growing up, your mom or your dad might say, don't do that because of this. Once you get out to the place where, you go to college, you get out of school, you get out of high school, there aren't people going around telling you, this is not something you shouldn't do, this is right, this is right. Matter of fact, it's really hard to tell what is right. So that's why it's very important to set examples, set those personal standards for yourself. To give you an example about how much willpower it takes, I enjoy working out and staying active. I like going outside, hiking, kayaking, or working out, stuff like that. Some people will ask me, they're trying to get into shape, could you create a workout plan for me? And yeah, sure, I could create a workout plan for you, but in the end for that, it's the same thing. You have to have the will to work out, to follow that plan, to set those goals, to eat the correct food, to follow through on studying how to do the correct motions. All those things, that's the same thing with that personal standard. I can tell you up and down what is correct and what to do, what would be the right thing to do, but it's up to you to have that willpower. And that's something that's really lacking in specifically our generation. We don't have a lot of willpower. We've been grown up in a society where things are instant, whether it be food, Wi-Fi, all that fun stuff. A lot of things are just automatically given to us, automatically done for us. So there isn't a lot of willpower. So it's more than ever, we need people to see what is correct and do what isn't always popular. So next slide. The key, if you want to take some notes, the key is in the will. Standards, goals, even plans, all start with your ability to believe and follow through with conviction. So that goes for darn near anything in your life. If you want to do something and it's reasonable, like for instance, I would never be an astronaut or I would never be a doctor because I really hate blood. So the key is in the will. So if I really, really wanted to, I made a goal, I made plans, and I follow through with what I believe in, my conviction, that'll get me to where I'm going to go. So right there, this is what my will is, what keeps me in line with how I want to live. And the will goes hand in hand with my guardrails. Now, our guardrails are something that, like I said before, the world, our culture, they don't really understand what guardrails are. They're much more concerned with living life in a way that makes them feel great. They want to live life as close to the edge, as close to danger as you possibly can without falling off. What's the problem with that? Well, technically there are a lot of things, but my main takeaway is we're just meant for more than that. Like, we're not supposed to be driving our car. Can you imagine getting in your car and driving down the highway, just scraping the guardrail all the way there and then parking? Like, that's not the way you're supposed to drive. Well, your life is a lot like that. You're not supposed to live your life on the edge. You're supposed to create boundaries and live a fulfilling life so that you can be an example for someone else. The whole idea of a guardrail is to create a small accident to prevent you from a worse accident. Now, you don't want to hit the guardrail all the time, but nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to make the right decision every single time. That guardrail is there to, we're in the wrong place. We need to get back on track. So to give you an example of a couple of things that I've used as some of my guardrails, I'm 24. I'm a white male, single here in the United States. When I'm choosing a relationship, whether it be romantic or a friendship, I always have to use some type of guardrail. For instance, I don't mind getting drinks with people, but one of my guardrails is we're not going to go out and drink every single night. Like, we're going to figure out what happened the night before. We're not going to lose ourselves. And that's one of my personal guardrails. Well, that's something that, maybe if I'm with a group of people, that might not be the case. Like, they may be ready to do that. And they may be ready to roll, and I'm just not. But again, nobody's going to say, no, don't do that. That's just one of my guardrails. With friends of mine, when I'm in Indianapolis, there's a lot of events and stuff like that. When friends of mine support advocate groups for LGBT, different things of that nature, that's perfectly fine. I don't have anything against you. I don't have anything against those groups. It's just my guardrails respectfully allow me to decline from doing those things because that's not what I stand for. Like I said, your guardrails is supposed to be something to prevent you from doing something that would be a large accident. Now, I might get some risk from telling these people, no, I don't want to support that. No, I don't believe in that. But that's my small accident from my big accident. My big accident would be to completely ignore who I am and just fit in, because that's one way you wouldn't want to do. Another one, when I'm selling something to a client, my guardrails won't let me leave there without telling my true feelings. So sometimes I'm not the best salesman because I will tell you what it really is. But that's one thing that I've learned as I've grown up. Honesty is key to me, so I'm not gonna tell you something that isn't true. By the way, I did get a new job, so if you're looking for any health insurance, let me know. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that afterwards, right? So those are a few of my personal guardrails, and like I said, those are stuff that I use my will, the power to, hold myself accountable. And it's not just because what I want other people to see, it's more what I want myself to be. I do believe that you're supposed to set a good example for people. Now, I'm not always the best example, but I try hard. And the thing is for me though, these boundaries are something that I won't let go away. Yes, you're going to have mistakes where maybe you do hit the guardrail a lot harder than you were anticipating. But that's something, like I said before, you have a small accident instead of a large accident. It's all about perspective. So, like I said before, you may get a little bit of pushback, especially from our culture, if you do follow your guardrails. And that only means that you're doing it correctly. Because if you're not getting any pushback, most of the time, then you're just going with the flow. You're not really being who you truly are. The culture will push you and tell you, oh, what you believe in is crazy. Oh, that's not like that. Or, are you born in 1950? No, it's not really. It's just, if it isn't hard, then it's most likely not right. Like a lot of things that I do, I like to complain. You can ask my mom or my dad. But a lot of the things that I do, I want them to be hard because most of the time I figured out that the easiest things in life are usually not even fulfilling. So when you're doing right whenever you're following your guardrails and you do get some of that pushback, because that is something that's hard, which, like I said, that could be something that's right. So another great quote that Tony gave me when we were preparing for this speech, when happiness points in one direction, while wisdom, truth, integrity, and common sense point in another direction, that's when really smart people start doing really stupid things. That's so true because it's hard sometimes to push aside what we think is going to make us happy. And that goes back to the knowledge and wisdom component. We don't always know, we're not wise enough to figure out exactly what we need at what time. We tend to focus on what's going to make us happy, what's going to make us feel good. And like I said, oftentimes those are not always the correct, right thing to do. That's why we have those guardrails. So I want you to begin to think, as I'm closing a little bit here today, what kind of person would you like to be to other people? Whether it be younger, older, because that does matter. I look up to a lot of older people. I try to do my best to be a leader for younger people. So think about that. What do you want? What type of message, what type of person do you want to be to them? What kind of example could you lead? What could you do? It doesn't have to be massive. You don't have to be president of the United States. You can just lead a small group. You could just take a person out for dinner, take a person out for lunch. It doesn't have to be massive, but think about those things. What could you do to lead someone else? And what do others see of you? Do they see your guardrails working? Do they see that you're a little bit different than the normal culture? That you have different ways of going about things, you have different values, you stand up for them? And are there guardrails that you already follow? Are there some that you need to add to your life? Those are questions I want you to think about this afternoon and throughout the week. And as I wrap up here, I'm going to wrap up with a verse. 1 Peter 5:8 says, "Be alert and sober mind, because the enemy, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour." So if you can imagine, guys, it's up to you whether you want to do guardrails or not. It's up to you if you want to believe or not. But one thing that's 100% certain is there are devils, there are demons, there are people out there trying to ruin people's lives, take their lives. And there's a responsibility for everybody to have those guardrails, be an example, help people live a fulfilling life. And that's why I think that this is such a great message for Tony to go off of. And I feel for the people that are in the same age as me. It's a very difficult time to have guardrails and stand up for them. But believe me, it'll pay off in the end, because those are things that they're going to be for you personally. They're not going to be for other people. You're going to move other people, but you're going to be more happy with who you are if you set those guardrails and you follow. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Eli. My stand will never be the same now. You know, one of the things that I thought about as he was talking, you know, that it's great to have guardrails in all of our lives. I mean, no matter what age group you're in, whether you're married, whether you're single, it's great to have those guardrails in your life so that you know where your personal boundaries are at. The problem is that when we encounter our friends, when we encounter culture, and it's just like Eli said, then all of a sudden we begin to compromise. And compromise, I will tell you this, compromise is the first step towards the guardrail. And the more you compromise, the closer you get, and then pretty soon you step over, and all of a sudden you're on the edge of the cliff. You know, Solomon says that we are to live as wise, not as unwise. And he says that the beginning of wisdom is knowledge of the Lord, is knowing the Lord. And I want to tell you today, if that is something that you've never made a commitment in your life, maybe you've never really thought so much about Jesus, you've really not, bought into the whole church thing or the whole God thing, I want to tell you, that's where the beginning of wisdom starts, is there. And without that, there isn't any hope. There isn't any hope. Because no matter what kind of guardrail you establish, culture is still going to have its hand on you. Without God in your life, without Jesus in your life, to give you that strength, to give you courage, and to give you knowledge of good and evil, you're always going to be subject to compromise. So this morning, I want to make an invitation to you. I want to invite our musicians to come up to close this morning. And I want to give you an invitation. If you've never made that step in your life, if you've never made that commitment in your life to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, this is an opportunity for you to change things for yourself. This is an opportunity for you to change your life. So I want to give you that opportunity today. If you would like to make that change, then you come forward this morning as we stand and we sing our closing song. And let us celebrate that moment with you. Let's stand as we continue. have church this evening at 6:30. Come back, bring a friend. Let's continue our worship of our Heavenly Father. And remember that God has loved you so much that He sent His one and only Son to die for you and to die for your sins. And if you know that, then go and share that with the world that is broken and needs to know. Pray with me today as we close. Father God, I just thank you so much for the gift of your words, for the gift of worship. And Father, we would just ask that we would continue with this attitude of worship throughout this day.